All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that music video. It was a great introduction to all of our nominees today. And I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jen Duell. I'm the Young Adult Coordinator at Richmond Public Library, and I'm going to be one of your hosts today, probably your main host for the program. And so I want to thank you guys all for being here. As I mentioned earlier, feel free to participate in our chat throughout the program. We want to make this as fun and interactive as possible, especially because we are so used to doing this in person. And so this is a first for us this year. This is actually our 8th year of the YAVA Award, but as I mentioned, it's our first ever virtual event, and we are super excited to celebrate with you today. The Richmond Public Library's annual YAVA, or Young Adult Virginia Author Award, highlights excellence in writing for readers in the middle and high school level by Virginia authors. The YAVA Celebration began back in 2013, but was called Teen 13, and it's grown increasingly over the years to include a year-long process culminating in the spring with this, our annual celebration. This is our library's biggest teen event, providing readers an opportunity to interact with local authors, learn about current young adult literature, and engage with others in the community. We value this entire process as an opportunity for teens to connect, engage, and become inspired. And so we are thrilled to be here doing this again today. This year's theme, as I mentioned, and you can see, is Pajama Party, because I think we've all learned how important wearing pajamas is over the last year. So get ready for a fun afternoon of meeting authors and getting excited about reading, as well as awarding our 2021 YAVA Award. Just a couple quick things I want to go over for our Zoom guidelines before we get started. Please use the chat feature to engage. Tell us where you are. Tell us what you think about the books. Say hello, any other general enthusiasm that you want to share throughout the event. We will be doing a Q&A with the audience at the end of the event, so feel free to use the Q&A feature throughout to put your questions in, and then we'll get them at the end. And also, we are recording this program, so it'll be available on the library's YouTube channel afterwards. All right, the first thing I would like to do is introduce our authors to you. First up, and this I just am doing in alphabetical order by first name because they're all wonderful, so I don't want to highlight one over the other. So that's my little disclaimer. So first up is Ariel Kaplan, and Ariel wrote We Are the Perfect Girl. And We Are the Perfect Girl is a contemporary retelling of Cyrano de Bergerac, in which two best friends, one shy but beautiful, one brash but insecure, engage in a romantic deception to win over the boy they both like. So that is Ariel. Let's see.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming.
I'm glad to be here today. Yeah.
We're happy to have you. Let's see. Next up is Brynne Rebele-Henry. Has she joined us yet? So Brynne might be popping in a little bit late. She had to get her COVID vaccination today. And so we all know that's really important. So it's a good excuse to not be here right now. But Brynne wrote Orpheus Girl, which is her debut novel. She is an award-winning poet, and in this novel, she reimagines the Orpheus myth as a love story between two teenage girls who were sent to conversion therapy after being caught together in an intimate moment. So that's Brynne, and we're happy to have her. Next up is Christina June, whose nominated book is No Place Like Here. In No Place Like Here, Ashlyn must learn to make the best of her ruined summer and her life, working at a wilderness retreat center where she is sent after her father goes to jail and her mom goes to rehab for depression. So that is No Place Like Here. Thank you for being here today, Christina.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Next up is Danielle Stinson, who wrote Before I Disappear. In this thriller, Rose must risk everything to find her little brother and mother when their small town vanishes into thin air. That is the premise of Before I Disappear. Thanks for being here today, Danielle.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Next up is Olivia Hinebaugh, who wrote The Birds, the Bees, and You and Me. And in this book, Never Been Kissed Lacey becomes her abstinence-only school sex ed expert, despite not having any firsthand experience yet. So welcome, Olivia. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Next up is Samara Wynn, who wrote Titania Academy, Faerie Mistborn. In this start of a fantasy series, when the magic blood of the Fae runs through your veins, they will find you, no matter what. Thank you for being here today, Samara. And next is Sarah Glenn Marsh, who wrote Song of the Dead. And this is a fantasy sequel to In the Kingdom of Carthia, death is not forever. Who you love isn't an issue, and there's a party every other day of the week. But all is not well since raising the dead has been banned. The new queen has a plague and a rebellion on her hands, and no one is safe. Thank you for being here today, Sarah.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Lamar Giles couldn't be with us today, but his book Spin was also nominated for our 2021 award. In this mystery novel, enemies Kaya and Fuse are forced to solve their famous friend's murder by the dead DJ's scary online fandom. So those are all 9 of our 2021 YAVA Award nominees. Congratulations to you all. Absolutely. All right, so our program today, we're going to just jump right in. It's going to be fast-paced and fun. We're going to alternate between rounds of author Q&A with rounds of fun games that will require both author and audience participation. So leading our Q&A today are a few of our teen judges from this past year who actually were part of the panel to determine our winner, who we'll announce later. Our first teen judge is Abigail Sterner from Arlington. And you are welcome to turn on your camera and say hello, Abigail, if you'd like.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. And Ellen Ezel from Vienna.
Wow.
Hello.
Hi, Ellen. And Jordan Hadlock from Culpeper.
Hi. Thank
Hey,
you for having
Jordan.
me.
Thanks for being here. And last but not least, Ryland Ward from Henrico.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Ryland. All right. So as you can see, our teen judges came from all over Virginia, and that's true for the 3 that were not here today as well, too. So that was really exciting as well. All right, teen judges, are you ready to ask round 1 of Q&A for our authors? Great. All right. Who is first up?
I believe that's me. Hi authors. Our first question is, what inspired you to write your book?
And authors can just jump in and answer when you feel called.
I'll jump in if you want. So my book, The Birds, the Bees, and You and Me, is about safer sex and enthusiastic consent. And I think I was really inspired in part just because of my work doing birth work, actually sort of like backwards, and thinking about how teenagers handle things like contraception, but also new relationships and, basically having sexual experiences for the first time and not being an expert on one hand, but not knowing anything on the other.
I can jump in next. So No Place Like Here was inspired by also some work, just like Olivia's. When I'm not writing, I'm also a high school counselor. And I have a lot of conversations with kids about that moment when you realize your parents aren't perfect and that they come with their own baggage, and how do you deal with that? And I have seen that some kids don't feel comfortable sort of because of that baggage or experience that their parents have had, perhaps speaking out for themselves. And so I wanted to write a book where the main character has to deal with that and has to work through her own demons because of how she was raised to try and get herself out of a really difficult situation and make the most of it. So
I can talk next. Hello. My book is called Titania Academy, Faerie Mistborn, and I was inspired to write it because a lot of stories talk about teens who have it all together. Well, my main character started off homeless, and she's an orphan, and she basically has everything against her. And then she finds out that she is one of the lost fairy orphans when an older boy from the academy comes and finds her and invites her to come to the school. Well, she thinks this is great because her biggest problem before was finding enough food to eat every day. And so she goes to the academy and she's all excited. Well, what happens when a new kid goes to a school for the first time and she's different? That's right. She got picked on and picked on badly. So the whole book is about her dealing with that. And most of the kids are not very nice to her. And she has some interesting things happen to her and a revelation towards the end of the book that things are not quite as they seem. So I'm very fond of my main character, Holly.
I can go next. I wrote Before I Disappear. I'm not even sure if I'm muted. Okay. I wrote Before I Disappear, inspired by a few things. It's not remotely autobiographical, but I did draw from some experiences that I had. I did a year working for Habitat for Humanity, and that partially inspired the book. Also, my military upbringing and the idea of home as being super important and like what that means and is it a physical place or people. And then the other main driver for me writing the book is I have 3 younger brothers that are, I'm very, very close to. And so it's really a sibling love story. And it was kind of a book that I wrote about how I felt for my brothers. And that's why I wrote it.
Nice.
I can talk. Go ahead.
Okay. So I wrote Song of the Dead as a sequel to my book Reign of the Fallen, and the inspiration for the series was, again, a couple things. So first of all, my own experiences dealing with death, which is a really tough thing at any age. And then also around the time I wrote it, I wanted to pit my heroine against a king who was afraid of change and progress. It was very much inspired by current events back in 2016.
Well, I can talk a little bit about We Are the Perfect Girl, which, as you said, was a Cyrano de Bergerac retelling. And I love retellings. My first book, Grendel's Guide to Love and War, was also a retelling. And this one, I read it first, the original play in high school, and I loved it at that time. And I wanted to see how it would feel in a 21st century context. And I felt like it made more sense to flip the genders of the characters and then to really get into the why they're carrying out this deception and sort of the inner lives of these girls, and their issues with self-esteem and their friendship. And I really wanted to dig into some of those issues while still being funny.
I can go, I think I'm the last one. I wrote How the Light Gets In. I spent a lot of years working on it, so the inspiration came from a lot of different places. I originally just wanted to write a ghost story and thought that I would write kind of a romancy ghost story, but that fell apart pretty quickly. It seemed a little too creepy. So it became a sister story, and it was inspired by very much so by the setting, which is fictional, but inspired by Cannon Beach, Oregon, which is my favorite one of my favorite towns. So I really just wanted to explore grief and loss and recovery, and that sister bond that kind of endures everything. So.
Thank you all for sharing those. Such diverse responses, but also interesting. Abigail, did you have a question?
Yes. So which scene was the most fun for you to write in your books, or which scene was the hardest?
Okay, I can go. Okay, so this is good. So there's a scene in No Place Like Here where Ashlyn gets on a zip line and she gets stuck in the middle of the zip line and a cute boy has to come rescue her. This happened to me. So I went ziplining with a friend and I was the last person to go. Of course, I was an adult, married with child at the time, and this like college kid had to come out and rescue me, and it was super, super embarrassing. And like he had to wrap his legs around me and I was just mortified. And so of course, the minute I got back on the ground, I was like, that's going in a book. So was he cute? Yes. Which made it more embarrassing. So I went on a zip line again last summer and I told the guy who was running it, I was like, you can't let me get stuck or I'm going to write you into a book too. So anyway, I like telling the story. It was really fun. Yes, there are pictures. No, I'm not going to share them. So anyway, that was super fun.
That's great.
I can go. My most challenging scenes were the scenes where the main character, Callie, communicates with her sister, who is a ghost, because I kind of had to establish the rules for that communication and how it would work and like what its limitations would be. So it was tricky to come up with my the rules that I was going to use for all of their scenes. And then the most fun are always the romance scenes for me. So Callie meets a cute boy and they fall for each other. So she and Tucker, anytime they're in a scene together, was lots of fun.
Anyone else have a favorite scene they want to mention? Either super hard or super fun to write?
I was going to say, I think my favorite part about writing this book was writing the friendship. There's three best friends who are just really close and sort of how they know each other and understand each other, but also know exactly how to tease each other. All of that stuff was just really fun, and it was fun to live in that world. And also, what's funny is from the first draft to what got published, the only scenes that didn't get major fixing and rearranging were all of the kissing scenes. So I would like to think that I just got those right the first time. That was, maybe that was easy. I don't know.
I'll jump in with one. A favorite scene would be multiple scenes, anything that had to do with the dragons. There are dragons in Song of the Dead. They were not in Reign of the Fallen because they stayed in one place, but in Song of the Dead, they explore their wider world that I built, and I got to do my own take on dragons, which are not about flying and breathing fire, and it was a lot of fun to put a spin on dragons that felt a little bit original and different. So.
I can chime in. I don't know if it's a favorite scene, but it may be the easiest thing for me to write as far as Before I Disappear. I think the parts that I wrote first were actually the parts that never changed. And they were, so Rose and Charlie, one is inside the town, one's outside of the town that disappears. And they do communicate too in this very kind of, it's a little bit of, it's kind of in verse, and those are the scenes and their backstory is what I wrote first, and it just came the easiest because I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know mechanically how I was going to pull it off until later. But those are the first things, those are the reasons I wrote the book, and I wrote those first, and so I think those are the ones that were the easiest to write.
All right, I think we have time for one more question before we do our first game. Right, or Rylan, did you want to jump in with a question?
Yeah, so my question for the authors is, do you have any unique writing rituals / things that help you write the best?
I can talk about this. Unfortunately, my writing ritual is I go to Starbucks and I can't do it anymore. So I don't like to write at home. It's too distracting. There's housework to be done and homework to be monitored for the kids, and it's just too much. So I like to go out. And this has been a real problem for the last year, and I think for other people too. So I take my laptop and I try to move around so that maybe I can catch some good energy someplace else. It's not working very well.
I want to say that I always make playlists, music playlists, for each story or book, and sometimes character. And like that is the way I get in the zone for a specific book. And I always hope that it kind of was like Pavlovian. So as soon as a song comes on, I'm just like starting. But also building playlists while I'm daydreaming about a story and trying to get the feel is one of my favorite parts of the process. And I probably spend longer on it than I should.
Yeah, like Olivia and Ariel, I also like to write elsewhere. So that's been quite a challenge. There's been zero separation between home and work. I mean, I'm back at work now, which is great, but it's really hard to come home and write. But also the playlist, like most of my main characters have theme songs that just sort of happened organically. I'll hear something and that kind of jumps out. So there are definitely songs and playlists for each of my books too.
All right. We're going to fit in one more question. So our last question for this section, Jordan.
Okay. This one's a little more fun. If your book was offered a movie adaptation, would you accept it? And do you think your movie would work? Do you think your book would work as a movie?
I would certainly accept it. I think that'd be amazing. It would scare me a little bit, I think, to kind of give up and give over that creative control. But I do think of my 3 published books that How the Light Gets In would probably work the best as a movie. But yeah, I think that would be such a cool thing to see it up on the screen. So.
My book came out about the same time as the show Sex Education came out on Netflix. And I definitely had this moment of like, darn it. I would rather have my book be a TV show, but that's because I just love television. I love binge watching shows. I would do it all day.
Who would say no though? I would love to have my stuff be a TV show, a movie, whatever. I will take it all. Yes.
I agree. I think it would be a fantastic thing, especially not only my book starts the whole series, but many people have said that my story, the series is called Titania Academy, is very similar to Harry Potter, except instead of wizards, you've got fairy and the fae creatures and fauns and things like that. And so I think with all the adventure and it would be fabulous as a movie.
I had the same exact experience as Olivia. So right around the time We Are the Perfect Girl came out, Netflix came out with Sierra Burgess as a loser. And I spent a lot of time with my head in my hands after that. And then maybe 6 months or a year later, they came out with the half of it, which I actually really do love. That said, if Hollywood wants to cut me a check, I will definitely cash it.
Well, sure.
That's actually a great reader's advisory tip for us librarians out there, though. If you like this, read this. If you like watching this, read this. So that it's not a bad thing. All right. I think it is time for our very first game. So I'm going to turn the the spotlight over to Naomi, who's going to go over what this game is and how we're going to play. And again, we encourage audience and author participation and teen judge participation. So I'm going to hand things over to Naomi.
Hello, everyone. Very nice to see you all here. Congrats to all the authors. You've all made wonderful works, every one of you, and it was good to read them all. So I've got 2 games prepared. They're both on PowerPoints. Be nice and easy. First one is Would You Rather. So for the audience to play along, there's like a key word in part of the question. So would you rather be able to fly or swim, kind of thing, and you just say fly or swim. For the authors, what I'd like you to do is, or panelists, to do 1 for the first option and 2 for the second. So you could just hold your hand up, 1 or 2, whichever one. We'll go through them nice and quick. There's only 10 of them, and we're gonna have some fun.
Naomi, I'm going to interrupt you for just 1 sec.
Yes.
I'm seeing now that the author, we may not see the author's responses from the screen. So authors, feel free to type in the chat as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Awesome, thanks.
Would you rather be able to control fire or water? That's a tough one. Yeah, I think I'd go with fire. I just love the heat, being around a campfire. I get so close, I nearly put my feet in it sometimes. Would you rather visit the International Space Station or an underwater hotel?
Ooh.
Assuming both are for at least a week or a weekend, so you have a chance to check it out, because those are not things you can see in one day, right? Would you rather your house have trampoline floors or aquarium floors? I like the idea of being able to jump everywhere, and but it can be difficult. But you know, aquariums are just so fun to look at. But I don't think I'd want to do the upkeep. It's a tough question. Yeah. Would you rather have a pet penguin or pet Komodo dragon?
Definitely 1.
You got to keep it pretty cold in your house to make sure those penguins are comfortable. So I hope you got lots of cozy things to wear. Those Komodo dragons are just like really cool creatures, though. Really, I could see having fun with it. You wouldn't have to accommodate as much. Would you rather be able to fix global warming or end world hunger? I know, why not both, right? They're both pretty big issues. I see you all chiming in. That's really awesome. Would you rather have an unlimited gift certificate to a restaurant or to a clothing store? And assuming it's the one restaurant or clothing store of your choice, your absolute favorite. I'm a glutton for food, even though I can't always eat everything I'd like. So I think I'd probably go with the restaurant myself. Although which one I'd pick, I don't know if I could. Would you rather spend the weekend with pirates or ninjas?
Pirates.
You got to keep your wits about you around both of them, though. Make sure nothing crazy happens, right? Would you rather go backstage with your favorite band or be an extra on your favorite TV show? I think I'd go with the TV show, because that would be memorialized longer, and you could go back and look at it and like, look, I did a thing. And as awesome as the band would be, it'd be most likely a one-time thing. So being able to relive that memory would be pretty awesome, I think. Would you rather master every musical instrument or every type of sport? Almost all the librarians I've asked this one to, everyone has answered musical instrument. somehow we're not that much of a sports people. Go figure. Would you rather have your own theme park or your own zoo? Both are a lot of responsibility there. I think I'd go with the zoo. All those different animals, being able to check them out, see them anytime, but you have like the responsibility of all those lives. And I don't know, maybe not as many high insurance policies as a theme park. Those seem more dangerous. And finito! That is our first round of gaming. Thanks for playing along, everyone.
Yay, that was fun. I saw lots of like split answers from the audience and from the authors, but I feel like your answers kind of actually are letting us get to know you a little bit better, authors. That's so cool.
While I was screen sharing, I couldn't see any of the answers. I could just see it lighting up in the chat with the numbers going up higher. So I was guessing what everyone was answering or not.
We got lots of cool participation in there. That was great, Naomi. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we are moving on to round 2 of our Q&A from our teen judges. And first up is Ryland.
Yeah, my question actually kind of goes with the playlists we were talking about. My question is, what song do you think fits the theme of your book that was nominated?
I'll jump in. I will say the song Castle by Halsey off of her Badlands album.
My main character's theme song is The Gold by Manchester Orchestra. It kind of represents her relationship with her father. They said, I believed you were crazy, you believed you loved me. It was kind of the relationship with her dad, which, you know, plays out throughout the book. So
it's been a while. I'm trying to remember my playlist for this book, which, so if I remember correctly, the 2 songs that I probably listened to the most for the kind of vibe were Heavy Feet by Local Natives and Halocene by Bon Iver.
Mine is If I Die Young by the band Perry, for obvious reasons.
I kind of can't pick one. I'm actually scrolling through my Spotify playlist going like, I don't know. That's such a bad answer. I'm sorry.
It's not a bad answer. That's the answer every librarian gives when they are asked their favorite book. So
I will say I had Old Days by Ingrid Michaelson on there, but it's been such a long time since I listened to all of them, and I'm not a lyrics person, so I never know if the lyrics actually fit. It's much more like mood, I guess.
I think it's so cool that all of you, or many of you, listen to music while you're writing. I find that really interesting. Me personally, that would distract me, but I think it's cool that it inspires you.
I actually think not listening to lyrics helps. I think if you're the type of person who hears lyrics and get like excited about the words, it would be distracting. But like I said, it's like all mood.
I agree. It's very distracting. I'm kind of a weirdo. I like quiet, boring room, 4 walls and a door, and the laptop.
Hey, whatever works, right?
That's it. Whatever works.
All right, Abigail, you want to pose question number 2?
Sure. So which character do you relate to most and why?
And this is character from your book, right?
I have a favorite character, which is the best friend Evita in my book. And I think more than just relating to her, I would want her to be my best friend. So there are parts of her that I definitely relate to, but I think I'm probably more like my protagonist. But I would like to be more like Evita, her friend.
I relate, I would say, the most to Rose, probably, just because even though we are very different, there are certain things that I feel like she's very introverted, her love for her family, the fact that she's moved a lot, all those things are things that I relate to. And she's one of those people that sometimes feels things that they don't always say. And how she feels is mostly through what she does. So you know how she feels through her actions. And I feel like I can be a lot like that sometimes. So I relate to that.
I see your hand raised, Samara.
Hi, I think that I really identify with my main character, Holly, because while she started out homeless and then she found a home at the school, I grew up a military brat and we moved every 2 years. And so when people say, well, what's your hometown? I don't really have a hometown. I was born in a town and flew to the other side of the world 2 months later. So I identify with Holly, and just finding friends and finding a home. That was the most important thing to her. And I'm still working on it myself. I still feel like I'm kind of not really anchored.
I think it's hard not to put yourself in the book a little bit. So like I always, the introverted side of me, it really identifies with Ashlyn. Just sometimes it's hard to speak up, so that's also something I think I've been working on forever.
I will say I think I identify, a little bit with each of my characters, but I'd like to say I identify most with Simeon, who is my main character's best friend. He will joke in any situation, no matter how terrible it is, and that is totally me. No matter how bad things get, I'm always joking because it makes situations a little more bearable. So I relate a lot to him.
So I would say as a teenager, I identify probably a little more with Bethany, who is my main character's best friend, who's very, very introverted. As an adult, I think I have probably shed that a little bit more, and I identify a little more strongly with Afra, who is my main character. I'll tell you briefly, I was in the car with my daughter, who is 16 now, the other day, and I was dancing with the radio, and she looked at me in horror and said, "People will see you." And I said, "I don't care." I said, "This is the thing that happens to you when you get older. You don't care what people think." And she looked at me with this just marvelous expression, because this was a future she had not contemplated. And so that was a fun moment. So I would say as an adult, probably more with Afra.
I think I relate most to Callie's aunt, who is she plays kind of a mother role in the book. She's like very much a fixer. She's trying to fix up this old Victorian house, and she's kind of trying to fix Callie. And that's kind of how I am. I'm kind of always trying to help out and improve upon and, be a listener, and maybe trying too hard to do those things sometimes. But I think I relate to Lucy more so than any of the other characters.
Again, I feel like I've gotten to know you all a lot better now. That's great. I think it's interesting, though, that not all of you necessarily relate most to your main character. So that's kind of cool and different. All right. Jordan, would you like to ask your question?
So what do you think that your main character's favorite book or TV show would be? Or I guess you could even expand that to like movie or like music genre or something. But just like, did you ever think about what media your characters would consume and like what it would be?
I think it's all music for my characters. I'm sure they watch TV. In fact, there's definitely a Mean Girls watching scene with her mom, but I'm pretty sure they would be really into sex education when that came out.
Well, I would say Afra is definitely big into anime, which is actually in the book because they talk about her, I talk about her watching Sailor Moon with her older sister, and then she has a younger brother who she's watching Naruto with. So I think she's definitely kind of a little bit of a weeb.
So Ashlyn's thing is leaving quotes everywhere. I think I forgot to mention this, but No Place Like Here is a very, very loose retelling of Hansel and Gretel. So instead of breadcrumbs, she leaves the quotes. So she gets them from everywhere, but song lyrics and books and just kind of, she's always reading like romance novels, and she really likes poetry. So specifically in the book, she gets a copy of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, which when I was in high school was something that I loved reading and highlighting my favorite passages too. So yep, she's a bookworm.
I think Rose would probably watch HGTV or Homes on Homes, or I don't even watch these shows, but I just know their titles. But something about how to fix something, be practical, because she's holding things together always. And she's definitely a practical sort, and would, if she's watching television, it's probably to figure out how to do something.
I think my characters, Odessa and her friends, the necromancers, I think they would, they'd watch a lot of horror movies. They would watch The Conjuring. They would watch the Haunting of Hill House series. They deal with a lot of horrific things. They deal with spirits and the dead. And I think they would watch those movies and make fun of them. I think they would do it for a laugh. So.
This is a good question. I had really not given this any thought while writing or after, but Callie is very much into swimming, so that's kind of her whole life. But while she has stayed with her aunt is kind of obsessed with 80s hair bands, and Callie begins the story thinking that is just that they're awful. But as she learns to kind of appreciate her aunt more, she kind of begins to appreciate her music as well. So by the end, she's rocking out to Bon Jovi.
Nice. We circle back to the music theme again. I love it. All right. We have one last question for this round. Ellen?
Hi. Is there a lesson that you would like your readers to take from your book?
Okay, I'll try. I'm terrible at like verbalizing things like this. But I think if there is a lesson that I hope to get across, it's that you can always come back from something. You're not like locked into your mistakes. They don't define who you are necessarily. That you can always kind of improve and turn things around no matter how bad they get.
Yeah, I would say the lesson, if there is one, in No Place Like Here, is that your words have power. And even though it's scary sometimes to stand up for yourself and speak your opinion, particularly to your family or people who have made you feel like you can't, just that you do have power, even if you're a teenager.
For Rain and Song of the Dead, I would say it's that change is necessary, even when it's really hard. But more than any kind of lesson, I just hope that it's a world where queer teens can see themselves belonging in this fantasy world.
I think my book feels a little obvious about messages because the characters are trying to teach their peers about safer sex and consent. So that stuff feels very obvious and close to the surface. But the takeaway I hope teen readers especially have are there's really two big ones. And one is kind of like what consent looks like. And that just seems like such a basic thing, and nobody wants to be lectured about this. But I just hope that it's modeled in the book. They can see what it's like to, feel vulnerable and uncomfortable, but respecting other people, respecting themselves. And the other one is that even though it is a romance and it does deal with sex, that romantic and sexual relationships are not like the be all end all. Like the friendships are just as important. And that, you know, your best friends can be really important to you. It doesn't just have to be your love interest as the most important person. And that was really important.
I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Whoever was.
You go.
I was just gonna say, in terms of lessons, I guess I didn't really think of it in terms of lessons, but maybe more of like what I was hoping to have readers think about. And I guess at the core, I sort of wanted people to look around and wonder about what they couldn't see, like that there's so much more maybe than that, everything that we can see. And just because we can't see something, it doesn't mean that it's real. And sometimes the most powerful forces that govern our lives, or who knows what else, are the ones that like you cannot put your finger on, but you can just feel are true, even if you can't, you know, if you cannot prove they're true.
I think for me in my book, the lesson I would love a reader to take away from is not only, you know, anti-bullying, that's a huge theme, but that a newcomer who, you know, may be new to your school and be kind of different and kind of weird, they may have special gifts that you don't know in the beginning and that you will learn to value and really appreciate. And so not to dismiss somebody out of hand.
All right.
I think in Perfect Girl, it's not to piggyback too much on Olivia, but yeah, I think the major theme is that your platonic love is not a lesser form of love than romantic love. And that, in fact, the great love of your life may be a platonic love, and it's not less important or less valid that sexual love is not. No matter what the media keeps sort of pushing, especially now, I think it's not the most important necessarily.
Gosh, I love all of those. I feel like somebody could pick up any of your books and really come away hopefully a better person at the end of it, or more enlightened or stronger. So that was a great question. Thank you. All right, I think we're ready for round 2 of our games. So I am going to move the spotlight over to Naomi again, and they will explain what we're going to do.
All right, hello again. So this time, it's going to be even easier to play the game because you only have to type one word at a time. It's never have I ever. Don't worry, it's not going to get too crazy. Maybe a little embarrassing, but not crazy. So if you have done the thing, say have, and then if you haven't done whatever the thing is, then all you have to do is type never. So have or never are your 2 words to type. Everybody ready? It's gonna be fun. Never have I ever sang in public. I've sang with the choirs a few times, but I don't think I've sang on my own. We'll see. Both of them count. Never have I ever walked through a cemetery at night. They are different spaces entirely in the dead of night than they are during the day. Never have I ever cut my own hair. I used to be able to say never to that one, but since last year, I have been. Keeping it fun. Never have I ever eaten food that broke the 5-second rule. Uh-oh. I am guilty. A cookie has dropped and, you know, cookies are just too good to waste. I'll still pick that cookie up. Never have I ever danced in the rain. I love a nice warm summer rain that you can just stick your arms out, face up, and just twirl around until you're dizzy and you fall down in a nice puddle. It's one of the best feelings. Never have I ever eaten an entire pack of Oreos in one sitting. I also have to admit I have. It was the Oreo Thins, but it was the mint ones. I'm a sucker for the mint Oreos. Just gobbled them all up, and next thing I know, it's empty. Never have I ever beaten a video game. For me, the closest I've gotten to this one is in an old I Spy game on the Wii. I've been able to beat that, and that's about it. I was never good at this Mario or anything like that. I do not have that kind of capability. Never have I ever written a book report without reading the book. Ruh-roh. Maybe some of you have done that one. Sometimes you can get away with it. Not very often. It's not recommended. I've seen a lot of people try though. Never have I ever broken a bone. This is a fairly recent one for me too. I've up till like 2 years ago, I've never broken. And now I've broken both wrists. So very talented here. Never have I ever walked into a screen door. I've definitely done this one. My mom has a favorite story she likes to tell of me when I was 4. There was a tornado coming, and we were in the hills of Tennessee, and I went to go close the screen door because it was flapping in the wind, and I grab a hold of it in a big gust, and I go flying out into the yard, just barely missing the 2 posts on the porch, and I come back in just not even shook, and she's like, "Are you okay? Mommy, I flew." She loves that story. And that's it. Thank you guys. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks, Naomi. I saw a lot of really hilarious responses. A lot of like, not yet, but there's still time, one day. Maybe some people not wanting to admit to some of the things that they've done. That was really fun. All right, so we are going to move into our last round of Q&A with our teen judges. And again, I just want to remind the audience before we get started, if you have any questions of your own, feel free to post them in the Q&A and we will definitely get to those at the end. So starting us off this round is Jordan.
Do you have a favorite book or a favorite series, or does any reading recommendations in general?
Okay, I have some favorites that I always like to recommend. 1,000 Splendid Suns is my all-time favorite book. It's not YA, it's an adult book, but it's so beautiful. My favorite YA book is Jellicoe Road, which is a little tricky to get into usually at the beginning for most people, but it's so worth it. It's awesome. And then my favorite trilogy right now is the Winner's Trilogy by Marie Rutkowski, The Winner's Curse, The Winner's Something, and then The Winner's Kiss. Those 3 books are amazing fantasy.
I'm going to back Katy up there with Jellicoe Road, which is my favorite young adult title. And if you're into fantasy and not contemporary, Melina Marchetta also wrote Finnegan of the Rock, which is an amazing fantasy trilogy.
Danielle actually got me into Jellicoe Road, so I'm going to third that one. Also, Scorpio Races was one of those books that really just the world building in the field just totally got me. I always have book recs. Man, I wish that I could sit down with every single person in the world and ask what they like and give them a book recommendation. So maybe I should be a librarian.
So I have not read Jellicoe Road, but all these people have recommended it to me. I know, don't stone me. I will get to it, I promise. My favorite book of all time is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. super classic, and she's awesome. And that's actually how Katy Upperman and I met. We were in line to meet Judy Blume, and that was excellent. So I will also say that I was super sad when Beverly Cleary passed recently, because the Verona books were some of my favorites. And so like that spunky, like messy girl that still shows up in a lot of the books that I write. So.
My favorite book of all time has got to be, it's not necessarily YA, although the character kind of grows up from a baby into his 20s, but it would be The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Cannot live without reading that book several times a year, every year.
You like the audiobook?
Oh God, yes.
I love the audiobook.
I think there's several versions of it too.
So lately I've been reading through all of Tiffany Jackson's books. So those are YA and they're excellent. I started with Allegedly, but I also recently finished Grown. And I would just recommend looking up Tiffany Jackson and reading all of her things because she's wonderful. But I will also give a themely recommendation with Reign of the Fallen and Song of the Dead, which is Garth Nix's Aborzen trilogy. Those books are brilliant. His world building is so cool. Like if there's something I wish I had thought of, it's his version of necromancy, which is completely different from mine and super fascinating. So those are definitely worth a read.
I'm not very good about talking about my favorites because I have a lot, but I can talk a little bit about what I'm reading right now, if that counts. I just started yesterday, Lila Lee's I'll Be the One. I'll put it up here, which is about a Korean American girl who wants to become a K-pop star. And I'm only a couple of chapters in, but it's so much fun. And I really wanted to read something happy and joyful right now because I think, like other people, I've been kind of down. So that's the YA that I'm reading right now. The other thing that I just finished was, this is one of my favorite manga series, is I Hear the Sunspot. So maybe some of you guys have already read that. The last version, that's the wrong word. The last book of this just came out like last week or something. So that's another series that I really have enjoyed recently.
All right, my TBR just grew. I have to say, Jellica Road's been on my list for a long time too, so I guess I need to move it up immediately.
To do it.
All right, next question is from Ryland.
So I think some of you kind of covered this already with my last question, but where is your favorite place to write, or if you could write anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Great question.
I'll take that because right now, that question, I might have answered it differently, before this year happened, but anywhere that my 4 boys are not screaming or chasing each other is my favorite place to write. I have always liked writing at home because I like to just be, have a window, look out and just have enough of that, but then be able to go to my refrigerator or get my food or whatever I want to do. But yeah, I am silence right now would be my favorite thing.
Just add me onto that as well. Yeah, I'm home with, I only have 3 children, but they still make a lot of noise. I like to feel cozy. If it's like a little bit chilly in the room I'm in and I can have a blanket, I'm like happy.
This was actually today's question. There's a great thing on Instagram that I think a lot of us are participating in, Author Life Month, and today's question was your dream retreat. So I kind of said something as what Olivia said, like porch, mountains, roaring fire, blankets, crispy fall weather, maybe some rain. That would be awesome.
I think rain is perfect, actually. I will say that I have a hard time writing at home. So I have a small office downtown where it's quiet and still. And if it's raining outside, that's just perfect. It's just me and my laptop.
I'm another write at home person. I would much prefer to be here with my own coffee and my animal, like our pets sleeping nearby and a candle burning. I like to be at home where I'm comfortable and cozy.
I'm the same way. I have an office where I write, and I've got a bookshelf over. I wish you could see it, but it's got all my friends' books on it that are published, and it's so cool to like look over at that and feel inspired when I'm writing. So I love it, even though we do have 3 birds and they scream a lot. I can shut the doors. I mean, it blocks some of it. I do have noise canceling headphones, so it is what it is.
I just want to get out of here. I want to get out of my house so bad. Any place where I can go and there's like a table and some caffeine and my family isn't and my house isn't, I would be very happy. I have a low bar, just somewhere else. Just please.
So it sounds like being home during a pandemic may have been good for some of you trying to write and not so good for others of you. So that makes complete sense though. All right, our next question comes from Abigail.
Yeah, so what is the best thing about being a published author?
I have 2. One was taking my kids to Barnes and Noble and seeing my book on a shelf with them and seeing how I'm gonna I get kind of emotional when I think about it. And when I was debating like pen name, not pen name, I used my married name because I wanted my kids to see a name that matched their name on the bookshelf. But the other one is I just really love meeting authors and meeting readers. It's just the best thing. So I'm so happy to be here and talk to readers who, maybe read my book and just all of the stuff. That is my favorite thing because I get to, as my job, I get to read and I get to talk about reading.
Yeah, I would agree with what Olivia said, and I would piggyback and say, in addition to working with readers and hearing from readers, it's also really awesome to talk with teachers and librarians and sort of those great and booksellers and great book champions and people who get it, people who love books and words as much as we do. That's awesome.
I'd say one of my favorite parts is school visits. Of course, that's not happening anymore with the pandemic. Virtual visits are fun too, but I always just felt that there was something really special about connecting with teens over stories in person and getting to share that experience. That was a really special thing. So hopefully that'll be a thing again soon.
I love just getting to meet other authors and readers and librarians and teachers and people who I ordinarily would not have the opportunity to meet. And it just makes my world a little bit bigger to have those opportunities to talk to people. It's so exciting when I hear from somebody in another state or in another country or to meet a writer that I've admired for a long time. And I just find that really exciting.
I love meeting other writers too, and especially my heroes. But the thing that I love the most about being a writer is creating art and creating it where there was nothing there before, and you've created this whole world, and it just putting all the little details in it, and then other people read it and they notice and they like it, and it's like they like it.
I agree with everything everyone has said. There are so many things that I love about being a writer, being an author, but I feel like for me too, it's just having an excuse to be locked inside my head, imagine doing what I would do anyway. And just like now I'm like, okay, it's totally legit because this is what I do, but that's what I'm doing anyway. So I really, really enjoy that. And also create anything creative, brainstorming, talking to other people, like bouncing ideas off of things that I love, that I would be that nobody else wants to talk about with me, but then there are the people out there that are interested in the same things and are I think it's really special to connect with people about those things.
I want to add, I don't think this is specific to being an author, but I think being somebody who loves stories and loves being a writer I feel like when I decided to take it seriously, I gave myself permission to research anything I was interested in and allow myself to be a beginner in whatever I was interested in. And it can all be for research, but it's all just like, it's like I've given myself permission to start over and learn something new all the time. And that's my favorite thing about being a writer or a creative person.
So I'm hearing a lot of you say the interactions with, authors and readers, and that's really why we do this event every year and we have this award, is because we love being able to provide that opportunity. And again, sadly, we're virtual this year, so we're doing the best that we can. So for those of you in the audience, be sure, I saw a couple questions actually come up in the chat. I don't want them to get lost. Make sure if you have a question, you put it in the Q&A, because this is your chance to interact with these authors and give them an opportunity to get that feedback and that interaction that they probably haven't had a lot of over the past year. So, all right, I think we have one more question from Ellen.
Hi. So do you have any advice for aspiring writers and authors?
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ariel. Go ahead.
I would say for me, the biggest thing is don't be afraid to suck. And don't be afraid to suck bad, because in the beginning, a lot of the stuff that you're going to write is going to be bad. I write bad stuff every day. And I think when you go through school, there's a sort of a thread of perfectionism that gets woven into your creative process, because you want to get an A, you want everything that you create to be good. And if you're writing something out of your head, it's okay. It's in the beginning, it's not that good. Just keep going and don't be a perfectionist. Just enjoy the process and believe that you can make things better as you progress.
And kind of going along with what Ariel is saying, I think like finishing a draft, finishing a first draft is so huge, even though like mine are always so terrible and it horrifies me to read them. But once they're done, they can be improved upon. They can be revised, they can be fixed. You can't fix what's not written. So powering through that bad first draft, I think is so huge. And then I always encourage people to read widely in the genre or category that you want to write, and then outside of that as well, and kind of pay attention to your reactions to what you're reading. If you have a strong reaction, either positive or negative, I like to kind of like dissect what is giving me that reaction and what the author has done to make me feel a certain way, because I think that that's a really powerful way to learn, and kind of trying to that as a beginner is a good way to practice and to kind of hone your craft.
Yeah, and I would say attending stuff like this is really huge. You can learn from people who have done this before. And I think seeking out other people to give you feedback and read your stuff, and whether that's a teacher or a parent or another family member or a friend who's interested in writing as well, or your librarians, this is not a solitary activity. There is a heck of a lot more than sitting in your room with your laptop. Our work is better with other people. So taking that scary step to learn from other people and share your stuff with others will make your work better.
I want to piggyback off of that, which is that I think you learn a lot from reading stuff that's published and has gone through that process. But if you find people kind of at the same spot as you are, and you start to see those things that are maybe like less refined, like the diamond in the rough stuff, and helping somebody else, not with a story that's you and your whole heart, but working with a story that's somebody else's idea, but still thinking about ways to make it better and what you love and what you don't love. Like, I think I've learned reading for other people more than I've learned almost doing anything else. It's given me much more of a critical eye, but a critical eye in the sense that I want to improve upon everything that I read, and I want to make everything the best it can be. My sort of go-to is there's this huge quote from Ira Glass, who I don't know if he's on This American Life on NPR, but he talks about anybody who wants to make anything creative, probably has a pretty high bar in terms of like their taste. Like, you know when something's good when you see it, you just have that innate sense. And the frustrating thing about being a beginner is nobody's stuff is good when they start out. So anytime you have those feelings like, why is my stuff not here yet? It's just, you're just closing the gap, and every single person who does anything interesting creatively has had to close that gap. But noticing you're not there yet is part of the process, and is part of what means that you have a sort of keen eye and a creative mind.
That's Olivia, I so agree with you. I've learned more from critiquing than anything else when I was writing. That taught me so much. Being able to look at somebody else's work and say, well, this isn't working because, then enabled me to go back, look at my story and say, oh, well, also this isn't working because those same reasons. And I would just add to that, critique for people and read for people, and just read in general outside of the genre that you love. So like if you're a big fantasy person, so read some sci-fi, so read some contemporary, read everything, and critique for people who write different things than you, because even outside of your genre, I think that that makes you better. So
I think that is very true. All the advice is wonderful. I would say to make a point to read several hours a day if you can. And if you're trying to write and like there's a saying, they say, write what you know. And people might say, well, I don't know. I've never had this experience or that experience. Well, you've been afraid before. You've been surprised before. You've been elated before. So you know the emotion. So you can set that emotion in any scene. So don't be afraid to go crazy and write about all kinds of things. I mean, do you think that Tolkien had ever been in a cave with a giant spider before? No, but he had experienced fear. And so he knew how to write that. But yeah, I would read a lot, because you soak up everything that you read, and you can actually learn how to write that way.
Everybody's had wonderful points, and the only thing that I guess I would add is kind of the focus on the love of it too. Like the reason that you sit down to write a story, the things you love about reading when you read, try to never lose sight of that, and know that no matter what, and all the feedback and all these things are so wonderful and so important, but never forget that you have something to say and you know how you need to say it too. And like, just don't stop, because it might not be perfect at first and you have to keep going, but the only way that like everybody's story is going to have its own course. And don't compare yourself to others. Just do what you do what you love, follow that passion, and just don't stop, because that's the only way you stop, is if it's you're the one who decides that you're going to do it. So just keep going.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I literally have goosebumps from those responses. I myself am not a writer, but I know and see in the library a lot of young aspiring writers, and so I feel like those pieces of advice are invaluable to them. So thank you all for sharing that, and for just being so candid and open and engaging with answering all of these questions. This has been really fun, and I want to thank our team judges also for coming up with some great questions. These were all theirs that they submitted and wanted to ask you. So thank you to our team judges for doing that. Before we move on, we are almost at the point where we are going to award our award. We do want to do 2 quick raffles, because I don't know how well you can see in the background, but I have a copy of all the nominees from this year's award. I actually have 2 sets of these, and so we would like to be able to give these away to some of our audience members. So I'm going to hand things over to Nicole, and she is going to do a quick raffle for these books.
All right. Hey, everybody. So I hope you're excited to see who wins the prizes. Okay, so let's see. Our first winner is Madison. So Madison, if you could message, you should be able to right click on Jen in the panelist list and message her. Go ahead and message her some kind of contact information, like your email, so that you can get into contact and she can get these books to you. All right, so And then our second winner is Michelle Burt. So same thing, Michelle. Go ahead and make sure you message Jen Duell your email or some kind of contact information so she can get with you and get these books to you. Congratulations.
Yay, thank you, Nicole. Again, you can send that to me in a private chat, or if you want to send me an email, it's jennifer.duell, my last name. Make sure you take note of how it's spelled because it often gets misspelled. So jennifer.duell@richmondgov.com. So we definitely want to get those books to you. We'll send them out in the mail. All right, so a quick thank you to those people who have people and organizations who have been part of YAVA over the past year. First of all, authors, again, thank you for participating today, for just writing your amazing books and sharing them with teens, and for just being part of the whole YAVA process. It does take the whole year from start to finish, and so I just really appreciate you being part of that. I also want to thank the Friends of the Richmond Public Library, as well as the Richmond Public Library Foundation and Dominion Energy. All of those organizations provided funding for our YAVA Award and for the event today, for the party packs that we sent out so you could celebrate at home, all of those things. I want to thank our YAVA committee, who has been working tirelessly behind the scenes and helps me to keep this program running and thriving. Ann Westrick, Barbara Haas, Beth Morris, Nicole Byers, and Naomi DiArchangel. And our teen judges, who I'm going to thank especially in just a second. All right. So it is time now to announce our finalist as well as the winning author for this year's 2021 YAVA Award. This year, we began a new process for determining our winners. In the spring of 2020, we invited teens living throughout Virginia to apply to be part of our teen judges panel. We received close to 100 applications, and of those, we selected just 7. As you could see, we had 4 of those teen judges participate today, and I would like to thank them. We had Ryland Ward from Henrico, Abigail Sterner from Arlington, Jordan Hadlock from Culpeper, and Ellen Ezel from Vienna. In addition to those 4, we had 3 others that were part of the process: Claudia Sung from Virginia Beach, Arav Lodha from Glen Allen, and Madison Brousseau from Glen Allen as well. So I want to thank them for all of their hard work and dedication. It was about a 7 or 8 month process from start to finish for them, in which they read the books and evaluated them, gave us their thoughtful feedback, and ultimately selected our finalists and winner. Now, without further ado, our awards. Our first finalist today started out studying history at William & Mary. Afterwards, they dabbled a bit in statistical programming, mostly helping scientists work on a very large cancer screening trial. It's interesting. But they eventually went on to get a master's degree in library science from Florida State, with a double concentration in youth services and reference services, so a librarian as well. They like cats, books, coffee, tea, young people, old people, and in-between people. Also folk tales, reimagined folk tales, sci-fi tales, fantasy tales, and other tales that know how to whistle a tune. I got these from their website. Their favorite childhood movies were The Empire Strikes Back and Harvey, the one in which Jimmy Stewart is BFFs with a 6-foot-tall invisible rabbit, mind you. This author's 2019 book is their 3rd novel and a standalone contemporary tale and a witty, warm-hearted retelling of Cyrenaic de Bergerac. It is a love letter to female friendship, an exploration of mental health, and an affirmation of self-love. If you haven't figured it out yet, our first 2021 YAVA Award finalist is Ariel Kaplan and her book, We Are the Perfect Girl. And I hope you can see that. Yay! Congratulations, Ariel.
Mute myself and it's not going so well. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we're going to mail you this certificate, and again, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. So our next finalists discovered their love of stories and storytelling began at an early age in their hometown of Hopewell, Virginia. After graduating from Hopewell High in 1997, they attended ODU University in Norfolk, Virginia. It was there they decided to pursue a writing career, making their first professional short story sale at the age of just 21. Pretty inspirational. Since then, this author has published both middle grade and YA fiction across multiple genres. They were an Edgar Award finalist twice, once in 2015 and again in 2016. In addition to writing, this author is also a founding member of We Need Diverse Books, an organization that advocates for essential changes in the publishing industry to produce and promote literature that reflects and honors the lives of all young people. This author's 2019 book is their fourth YA thriller. It follows two frenemies as they set out to solve the murder of best friend and celebrity DJ. With a spine-tingling plot, complex characters, and a masterful depiction of the hip-hop world, this book keeps readers guessing until the last page. Our second finalist for the 2021 YAVA Award is Lamar Giles for his book Spin. And as I mentioned, sadly, Lamar couldn't be here today, but we want to extend our congratulations to him as well for being selected as a finalist. All right. And last but not least, our 2021 YAVA Award winner. This author is not only an award-winning author, but also an award-winning poet. These include the AWP 2017 Donald Hall Prize for Poetry, the 2016 Android Prize for Prose, and the 2015 Louise Lewis Emily F. Bourne Award for Poetry from the Poetry Society of America. Their work centers around topics like feminism, lesbianism, homophobic violence, and girlhood. The author writes, "I'm motivated by the lack of positive queer representation in lesbian writers in mainstream literature. I want to try to make queer women's stories something that is more universally read and accepted. I'm not interested in exploring the cause of homophobia, but rather in writing about the effects that it has on queer people." Their 2019 novel reimagines a classic epic told into a bold graphic tale about the cost of exclusion, as it tells the story between two girls in rural Texas. Before I announce the winner, I'd like to read some of the things our teen judges had to say about this novel. The writing style is beautiful, haunting, and emotional, and it only makes me want to read further. Books are meant to give you empathy, show you a new perspective, and this book is able to give you that and reveal a large problem that society has with the fact that in many states, conversion therapy still isn't decriminalized. I love the way the story was written. It flows very naturally and is extremely easy to understand the characters and their motivations and to sympathize with them. The characters were very real and the hardships very accurately expressed real life occurrences. The story and characters were enticing and had the readers cheering for them. I loved this book and would recommend it to many people. This book should be the 2021 YAVA winner because of its delicate prose, masterful parallels between Greek myth and the real world, and its ability to create a heavy novel in a compact read. Its short novel length makes it less daunting for the subject material it covers without having the need to sacrifice great writing style for sustenance. Not only that, but the characters are resilient, down to earth, full characters that don't need to have an action or equip at every phrase in order to make them feel real. quip at every phrase, excuse me. Sometimes people are just people, complex and made of loose thoughts, ideas, emotions, and memories. And this book manages to convey that so well for its brevity. It tackles very difficult subject matter and doesn't try to hold itself back, but its ability to wrangle its own writing style to create such a great atmospheric and heavy read for so little pages is a Herculean feat of its own. So some really, really high praise from our teen judges. The winner of the 2021 Young Adult Virginia Author Award is Brynne Rebele-Henry and her book, Orpheus Girl. And I actually, unless she has popped in, I literally got an email from her 30 minutes ago from the vaccination clinic saying, I'm trying to get there. So I'm so sad that she's not here and wasn't able to hear all that, but we are recording, so I will make sure she does. But as the winner, she receives this beautiful glass book for her shelves, as well as a $1,000 check to put towards furthering her writing. And we do have the opportunity to have her come back and present a program for our teens in the Richmond community, or perhaps virtually if we're still doing that at that time. So sometime within the next year before our next YAVA Award. So congratulations to Brynne as well. Again, the teens, I think I speak for all of them when they say that it was a hard decision. I got to sit in on the evening that they all sat down and chatted about all their books. And it took a while for them to come to a decision because they really had high praise for all of your books. So again, thank you so much for being part of this award process, this celebration today. I cannot say enough good things about all of you. And you know, your contribution not only to YA literature, but just as the Virginia author and teen literature community. So thank you. All right. I am going to remind you guys in the audience to put your Q&A in the Q&A feature. Also want to let you know, if you haven't already read any of the books that we talked about today, I would highly encourage you to either go to your local library and check them out. All of your Richmond public branches have copies of every one of these books. So if you live locally to Richmond, you will be able to get them there. Or you can get them from your local library, depending on where you are in Virginia. If you want a copy of your very own of any of these books, we work with a local Richmond bookseller called Chop Suey Books. They have copies of all of these. Some of them are even signed. So I would encourage you to reach out to them to get a copy of your own. And also want to let you know that we're going to start this process all over again next week. We're going to be announcing our 2022 award nominees next week. So please check the library website for that. And finally, if any of our audience members would like to be a teen judge for the 2022 award, we will be releasing applications in May. So please keep your eye out for that as well. All right, I have run everybody over time, so I apologize to that, but I feel like it's been such great conversation today. I do see that we have a few questions in the chat, so if you would like to stick around for the Q&A, please do. I'm going to hand things over to Barbara Haas, who is part of our YAVA committee, to kind of lead up the audience Q&A. And again, thank you all for being here.
Awesome, this is so exciting. Thank you to all the authors and to all the participants. That's great. I'm going to start right now with the first question, which is to all the authors. What did you learn about yourself when writing your book?
Any of my authors learn anything about themselves when they were writing?
I'll jump in. I mean, I think I learned the same thing that my main character has learned, that, you know, that your words have power.